Hello everyone, myself is Dr. Avinash Amangi. Today I am here with respect to the NEET Biology Mock Test 5 and mainly related with botany, and I am from Gurudev Academy, Dharwad. Right. So with respect to that, if you consider, we'll go ahead with respect to the questions of this particularly NEET. Right. Mainly a botany part of it is. So here first question says, choose the incorrect statement for the word universal rules of binomial nomenclature. So here first, if you consider what they are saying, incorrect statement we have to find out, and we have to read whatever these four statements are. Biological names are generally in Latin or Latinized. So this is what actually correct, right? Then the first word in biological name represents the specific epithet, while the second component denotes the word genus, right? So here if you consider, specific epithet is not related to that, right? So you mainly like first name, mainly like first word represents what genus, not the particularly specific epithet, right? And the genus is nothing but what here, instead of what second component, here it should be what specific epithet, right? So first name should be genus and the second name should be what specific epithet here, right? So this statement itself is what wrong here, right? Then again we'll read further also, that is, both the words in biological name when handwritten are separately underlined, right? Yes, they are underlined separately, right? Or when it is printed in italics, printed in italic to indicate their what Latin origin, right? Then and it was proposed by what Carolus Linnaeus, and Carolus Linnaeus itself is known as what the giving or formation of this particularly binomial nomenclature. Binomial nomenclature consists of two components, one is genus and one more is what species epithet, right? So first should be what genus and second should be what specific epithet. According to this particularly question, incorrect statement they are asking, so answer is here what the two, right? Next question, the group of PGRs that are involved in growth promoting activities such as what cell division, cell enlargement, pattern formation, tropic growth, flowering, fruiting and what seed formations are, right? So here we have to find out what growth promoting activities or growth promoters, right? So majorly if you consider, gibberellin, cytokinin and even the particularly auxins are known to be the what the particularly growth promoters, right? Mainly like what abscisic acid and ethylene is known as what growth inhibitors, right? So according to that, if you consider, here option 2 is correct, that is what auxin, gibberellins and what cytokinin involves with respect to the what growth promoting activities, right? So here option 2 is correct, right? Then who used recombination frequency to map up the gene position onto the what chromosome, right? Here if you consider, Gregor John Mendel is known to be a father of genetics, and he is specially known for what the law of independent assortment and even law of dominance and even a law of what segregation or even purity of gamete, what we call it as, right? The Alfred Stewart Went, who actually understood the particularly Thomas Hunt Morgan's experiment, and he tried to explain that related with respect to the what mapping of the gene onto the what particularly what chromosome, and that itself shows what the allelic frequency, right? So frequency based calculation can be carried out by means of mapping the gene position on chromosome, and that is actually given by whom? The Alfred Stewart Went, right? Walter Sutton and Theodore Boveri, they are related with what chromosomal theory of what inheritance, right? And that further tried to prove by means of experimentation is who? Thomas Hunt Morgan, right? So here according to this question, Alfred Stewart Went is the correct answer, right? Then which event occurs during what M phase of the particularly cell cycle, right? M phase means mainly the division phase or mitotic phase, usually what we call it as. So here with respect to this, if you consider, what can occur over with respect to this all, mainly like what here the formation of what the particularly DNA replication can't take place in M phase, because DNA replication takes place with respect to the what? S phase. Then chromosome condensation, yes, it will take place. Then nuclear envelope breakdown, there also that I can see with respect to the what? M phase. Then spindle formation, that even can be seen, and the centrosome duplication, that even can be seen up with respect to the what? This particularly, sorry, this cannot be seen up with respect to the M phase. So according to this, if you consider here, the B, C and D is what the correct answer. So B and C and D are the only one which are related with what? The particularly M phase here, right? Then, which of the following bacteria are known for nitrogen fixation while being free living in soil, right? While being what? Free living in particularly soil. So according to this, if you consider majorly, here I am going to find out that the particularly rhizobium, which is actually present with respect to the root nodules, and mycobacterium, that is what actually causes infection, right? Then azospirillum, yes, that can be seen in what? The free living into the what? Soil. Then azotobacter, that is even we are going to get with respect to the rhizosphere soil. So according to this, if you consider, the option 3 is correct, right? So 95th question, that is what? Option 3, that is azospirillum as well as what? Azotobacter is a correct answer, right? Then alternate type of what? Phyllotaxy is present in all the following except one, right? So except, they are asking alternative phyllotaxy related with respect to the what? The arrangement of what? Leaves, and that we are not going to see with respect to the what? Guava here, right? So that is what the 4 answer, right? Then which one of the following substances are produced by yeast, right? So yeast producing mainly like what we call it as Saccharomyces cerevisiae, and even there are what? Again different type of what fungi even can be what? Found here, right? So what these particularly, which of the following substances are produced by this particularly yeast? If you consider here, the yeast can produce here what? One is ethanol and one more is what? Statin, right? Because Monos purpurus, that even be known to be the what? Particularly what? Yeast. So according to that, the particularly option 2 is what? Correct, right? Then given below are the what? 2 statements. One is labeled as assertion A and the particularly other is labeled as what? Reason R. So assertion, that is what? The mainly what it says, cleistogamous flowers are invariably autogamous. Yes, because cleistogamous flowers are what? The closely packed, or where the androecium and gynoecium is not exposed outside, they are inside the particularly flower, right? In reason what says, in cleistogamous flower there is no chance of what? Cross pollination, landing onto the particularly stigma here, landing onto the particularly what? Stigma here. According to that, the particularly both option, that is what? Both assertion and reasons are true, but and the reason is the what? Correct explanation of what? A here option 3 is correct, right? As we know, if there is a particularly what? Cleistogamous type of flower and flower which is actually closed type, where anthers as well as what? The stigma is not exposed outside, androecium or gynoecium is not exposed outside, they are present within the particularly what? Flower. So because of that only, like what? There is no any chance of what? The particularly cross pollination. So definitely here both assertion and the reasons are true, and the reason is the what? Correct explanation of what? Assertion here, right? Then identify the incorrect statement with respect to the what? The mainly what? Detritus food chain, right? So that what we have to find out here. The detritus food chain begin with what? Dead organic matter, right? Then it is made up of what? Decomposers which are autotrophic organisms, mainly fungi and bacteria, right? So decomposer secretes the digestive enzyme that break down what? Dead and the mainly waste material into the simple inorganic material, which are the subsequently absorbed by them, right? Then the decomposers are also known as what? Saprophytes. Yes, majorly decomposers are known to be the what here? Saprophytes. They are not actually the autotrophs, right? So detritus, where the decomposing material, onto that only like what? Bacteria and fungi can grow, but these bacteria and fungi are not what autotrophic, they are actually saprophytic in nature. So according to this, incorrect statement is what? The second one, right? Then identify the incorrect statement from the what following, right? The hard outer layer of what pollen grain is called as what? Intine. Is called as what? Intine. But it is hard outermost layer is called as what? Exine, right? Then the inner wall of pollen grain is called as what? Exine. No, it is called as what? Intine actually, right? Then pollen grains exine has a prominent aperture called as what? Germ pore, right? Where the sporopollenin is absent. Yes, this is what actually correct, right? Pollen grains exine where there will not be any deposition of this highly resistant organic matter, right? And that is nothing but what? The aperture known to be the germ pore. Then intine of pollen grain is thin and a continuous layer. Yes, it is a thin and continuous layer, what we are finding out. Then the particularly here the cytoplasm of pollen grain is surrounded by the particularly plasma membrane. So cytoplasm of this particularly is surrounded by means of a plasma membrane. Here according to this, if you consider, yes, that is what E option is what also even correct, right? But which one is what incorrect regarding the particularly pollen grain? That is the option A and the particularly B. According to that, the option 3 is what correct, right? So the statement A and B are what wrong, because the outermost layer is known as exine, not the particularly intine, and the innermost layer is known as what? Here exine they have mentioned, but it's an intine, right? Not the particularly what? Exine. So A and B is correct over here, right? Then moving on to the next question, that is state the true T, right, or false for the what following statements, right? Then based on that, if you consider here, that is with respect to this, if you consider the biomass of a species is expressed in terms of what? A fresh or a dry weight, right? Fresh or what? A dry weight. So here this one is what actually true, right? Then only 1% of the particularly energy is transferred to what? Each tropical from the particularly lower tropical level, right? So each tropic level from the what? The particularly lower tropical level. So this statement is actually false, right? So organisms at each, because 10% of energy itself is transferred to what? Each tropical level. So even we call it as 10% law. Organism at each tropical level depends on those at a what? Lower tropic level of their what? Energy demand. So this is what actually true, right? They depend on to the what? The lower tropical level for their particularly what? Energy for the energy purposes. Then the producers belonging to the what? The first tropical level, herbivorous and carnivorous to the what? Second tropical level, and this statement is what? Even false. So according to that, first one is true, second one is false, then third one is true, then false. And if I find the match, that is what the question one option is what correct here, right? Then in a DNA nucleotide chain has the sequence, that is AGCTT GCGA sequence. The nucleotide sequence of the other chain could be. So we have to find out what? A DNA nucleotide chain has what? AGTCC sequence, and the nucleotide sequence of what? Other chain. If other chain, if I consider what it should be, that is what? A opposite it should be T, G opposite C, C opposite G, then a T opposite A, then T opposite A, C opposite G, and G opposite C, A opposite what? T. So according to this, mainly like what we know, it is a Chargaff's base equivalence rule, and according to that, the adenine pair with the thymine and guanine pair with what? A cytosine, right? So based on that only, we have to find out here the answer one is what correct, right? So that particularly sequence we can get over here, right? So that is what the sequence of what the other stand, right? Then the cell wall layer which perform the function of protection of what? Microsporangia are, right? The walls layer which perform function of what? Protection of what? Microsporangia They are nothing but what here, the particularly epidermis, endothecium, right, sorry, endothecium, epidermis and the particularly what, middle layer, right? So according to this, the particularly answer 3 is correct. So this is what actually here, mainly tapetum, what it can help, tapetum actually provides nourishment to the what, the particularly sporogenous tissue, so that it can develop into the something called as what, the pollen grain, right? So endothecium, epidermis and middle layer, that itself gives what, the protection to the what, this particularly microsporangia. So option 3 is what, correct here, right? Then identify the what correct label for the what given figure of what particularly dicot, right? So anyhow, this is not actually a clear image, but still we try to what identify here. So according to that, if you consider, the first one is actually the phloem, right? Then second one is the protoxylem, right? And the third one is the metaxylem, right? And the fourth one is like the cambium, right? So here according to this, if I consider, that is what option 2 is correct, right? So like diagram based questions even can be what asked, right? Then match the list with what, list 2. So we have to find out, mainly they have given petiole, lamina, root cap and pelvinus. So based on that, if I consider here, that is nothing but what, the particularly pelvinus is related with respect to the what, solan leaf base, right? Pelvinus is known to be the solan leaf base, right? Then root cap is what, particularly thimble like what structure, what we are going to find out. Root cap is nothing but it's a thimble like structure, right, mainly. Then lamina is nothing but what, green expanded part of what, leaf. Lamina is nothing but what, green expanded part of what, leaf. Then petiole is nothing but it's a stalk that attaches to the what, particularly leaf blade to the what, stem. So according to this, if you consider match, the option 3 is correct here, right? Then next question, that is select the what, incorrect statement what we have to find out. Then according to that, if I consider here, the particularly the ratio of the volume of CO2 evolved to the what, volume of oxygen consumed into the what, respiration is called as what, respiratory quotient, RQ, that is what, respiratory ratio. Yes, this statement is actually correct for respiratory quotient, right? Then the respiratory quotient depends upon the type of what, respiratory substrate used during what, respiration. Yes, respiratory quotient usually depends, because of that only carbohydrate has a what, respiratory quotient, that is what, RQ for C for what, carbohydrate. So RQ is what, 1. Then for the protein, P for protein, RQ is nothing but what, 0.9. And the particularly fat, that is what, F, RQ is nothing but what, it's a 0.7, right? So like that of what RQ you can find out. But here they have mentioned what, the pure protein or fats and carbohydrates are always used as what, respiratory substrate, right? So pure protein should get breakdown, right? Then later on, the particularly it can be used as what, respiratory substrate, right? Because each step of it is like protein should get breakdown into amino acids. Amino acids can be what, the particularly respiratory substrate, right? And fats basic component is what, fatty acid and glycerol. So there I'm going to find out what it as a respiratory substrate, right? Not as what, pure protein and fat or even what, carbohydrate. Carbohydrate should get breakdown into what, simpler form, then only it can become what, the glucose form, then only it can be what, the particularly respiratory substrate, right? Then when carbohydrates are used as what, substrate, the RQ will be 1. Yes, this is correct. So according to this particularly here, option 3 is what, incorrect, right? So that is option 3 is an answer, right? Then mesosomes, which is formed by the extension of what, plasma membrane into the what, cell, does not help in formation of cell wall, replication of DNA, respiration, storing of the particularly pigment, right? Majorly you consider with respect to the bacteria, we will find out the presence of these infoldings, that is nothing but we call it as mesosomes, right? Now like this of what structural organization you can find out. Now this infolding actually provides what the surface area for what secretion of what the particularly different enzymes, right? So here if I consider, even that will help in particularly what the cell wall formation, right? Even help in what replication of DNA, and even carries out what respiration is of any type, aerobic or anaerobic type, but here storing the pigment is not what correct, right? So which is actually does not help with respect to the what mesosomes. So here answer is nothing but what 4, right? So that is what storing of the pigment we are not going to find out with respect to the what here, the particularly mesosomes, right? Then given below are the what two statements. Statement 1 is what microorganisms such as what lactobacillus and the other commonly called lactic acid bacteria grow in milk and convert it into curd, right? Then during growth the lab produce enzyme and that coagulate and partially digest the particularly what milk protein, right? Then here if you consider, actually the statement 1 is correct, but statement 2 is what incorrect, right? So here statement 1 is correct and statement 2 is what incorrect, because the enzymes won't be there to carry out what the partial coagulation or partial digestion of what milk protein, but instead there will be a formation of what the particularly lactic acid, right? And that itself actually coagulate and partially digest the particularly what milk protein, right? So here based on that only statement 1 is correct, but the statement 2 is incorrect. So option 1 is correct here. Then identify the correct statement from the following, right? So in case of plant, classes with a few similar characters are aligned to higher category called as what the particularly phylum. Then subcategories have also been developed in a taxonomic hierarchy to facilitate more sound and scientific placement of what various taxa. Then class includes related orders. Then Canulaceae family is included in order Polynomials on the basis of its what floral character. Then choose the correct answer from the what the option given below. So according to that, if you consider here, the particularly B, C and D is correct, right? That is what the B, C and what D is correct, but A is not correct, because with respect to that, in case of plant, classes with a few similar character are aligned to a higher category called as what division, not the particularly what phylum. And these related, if I consider these all statements, these are related with respect to the plant only, then phylum is not considered inside the particularly plant. So we'll consider here what the particularly division, and remaining all options are what the correct here. That is what B, C and D, and here option 3 is correct. Then given below are the what two statements. One is labeled as what assertion A and the other is labeled as what reason, right? Then assertion is a filament in a flower consists of what three parts, namely a stigma, style and ovary, right? Then the stigma is present at the what tip of the particularly style and is receptive surface for the what pollen. So directly if you consider, filament in a flower consists of what three parts. Filament in flower actually consists of what bilobed anther. It is consist of what the particularly bilobed anther, not the particularly stigma, style and ovary. Means this assertion is what wrong, right? Then you consider stigma is present at the what tip of the what style and is the what receptive surface. Yes, that is correct. So according to that, if you consider A is false but R is what true, this is correct, and A is false and R is what true, right? So next question, that is identify the incorrect statement with respect to the what factor affecting the what photosynthesis. So we have to find out what factor actually affecting the photosynthesis. Majorly you consider incorrect statement, what we have to find out, increase in the incident light beyond a point causes the what breakdown of what chlorophyll and a decreases in photosynthesis. Yes, right? If the particularly a specific wavelength of a light can be absorbed by means of what chlorophyll, and chlorophyll A itself is nothing but what? The photosensitive molecule, and it is going to observe a specific wavelength. Beyond if it goes, then definitely what will happen? It a decrease in what? Particularly photosynthesis. Then carbon dioxide is the major limiting factor for photosynthesis. If consider carbon dioxide will be less, then we are not going to find out the particularly photosynthesis, because to carry out photosynthesis or to form an organic molecule, what is required? Carbon dioxide is required. Then definitely it is going to be a major component of what? Photosynthesis. The C4 plants respond to the what? Higher temperature and show higher rate of photosynthesis, while the C3 plant have much lower temperature optimum. So according, if you consider like in C4 pathway, majorly there will not be any kind of what? Photo respiration, right? So because of that only, what I can find out is highest photosynthesis can be seen with what? C4 plant. But in a C3 plant, this useless process called as what? Photo respiration definitely takes place, right? And which has what? Much lower temperature optimum even. So this statement is even correct. Then the dark reaction being enzymatic are temperature independent. No, they are what? A temperature dependent. So here the incorrect statement for what? Photosynthesis is the particularly 4 here, right? Then cells are divided and new cells are formed from the what? Pre-existing cells, that is what? Omnis cellulae e cellula was first explained by means of whom? The particularly Rudolf Virchow, right? That is nothing but what? Rudolf Virchow. The Swan and Scleden who given what? The cell theory, and what they have told is that is nothing but what? The organisms are made up of cells and its products thereof, right? But here the Rudolf Virchow, what he told is the whatever the cells were there, that actually arised from what? Pre-existing cells, and that itself what we call it as omnis cellulae e cellula. That is the Rudolf Virchow itself has given this, right? Then identify the correct statement with respect to the word sporophyte of mosses, right? So sporophyte of mosses, that what we have to identify here, mainly here if you consider is more elaborate than that in the particularly liverwort. Yes, that is with respect to the mosses, it is more elaborated than the what? Liverwort. Consist of what? Foot, seta and capsule. Yes, that we are going to see, right? Then spores are present in capsules. Yes, right? Then spores are formed after what? Meiosis. Yes. Then elaborate mechanism of spores dispersal is prevented in them. Yes, right? So that can be what? Seen. So according to this, if you consider, so first option is what? Correct. That is what? All are correct regarding something called as what? The sporophyte of what? Mosses, right? Then in which of the given organism Taylor et al. Have proved semi-conservative mode of chromosomes replication by using radioactive thymidine, right? So in which of the particular Taylor et al. Used, that is what? Vicia faba, that what the particularly organism he have used to prove something called as what? Semi-conservative type of what? Replication, right? Majorly you consider Vicia faba, so that he even tried to prove something called as what? Semi-conservative type of what? Nature of what? Replication of DNA, that is what? Vicia faba is the particularly plant, right? Then given below table shows a particularly hypothetical population of a country from 2002 to 2005, right? Then arrange the following year in order to what? Decreasing natural increase rate, that is R of the what? Population in a option, right? So according to that, if you consider, so that is nothing but what? Here arrangement if you consider, that is the first one will be the D, right? First one will be the D, then second one will be the here 2, right? That is what? C, and the third one will be the B, and the last one is what? The particularly A. So based on that, the option 2 is correct, right? Then identify the number of what? Plants that have perigynous flowers and choose the what? Correct option, right? So here peach, plum, mustard, brinjal, ray floret of the particularly what? Sunflower. So identify the number of plants that have what? Perigynous type of what? Flower, and according to that, if you consider here, actually majorly like what the four, that is what the two of them have the particularly something called as what perigynous type of flower. That is nothing but here majorly you can find out, that is the rim of what thallus almost the same level and is called as perigynous. That can be seen with respect to the pulp, then rose, and even with respect to the what particularly peach, right? So that can be what seen. So here the pulp and the particularly peach, these two of them have what perigynous type of what the particularly flower. So option 4 is what correct. Then which of the following contains what 70s ribosomes? 70s type of what ribosomes can be seen: mitochondria, chloroplast, lysosomes, cytoplasm, bacteria. So choose the correct answer from the what option given below, right? So according to that, if you consider 70s type of what ribosomes can be seen with what mitochondria, right? In eukaryotic, its main ribosome is ATS, right? In eukaryotic, main ribosome is what ATS, but the mitochondria, sorry, ribosome present with respect to the mitochondria and the ribosome present with respect to the what chloroplast is of what 70s type, and the lysosome and the cytoplasm doesn't have what any ribosomes. So you consider bacteria has what the particularly 70s type of what the particularly ribosomes, right? But overally in eukaryotic, main ribosome will be ATS, but mitochondrial and chloroplast ribosome will be 70s. Then according to that, if you consider here mainly A, right? A is correct. Then the B is what correct here, right? Then the lastly what E. So according to this, the option 3 is correct, right? Then identify the word correct sequence of microsporogenesis. So correct sequence of what microsporogenesis we have to find out. So first sequence what it says, microspore tetrad directly, then pollen mother cells, and then the sporogenous tissue. This sequence is not correct. Then sporogenous tissue, microspore tetrad, then PMC, pollen mother cells, what they are saying. PMC, microspore tetrad, then sporogenous tissue, right? Then sporogenous tissue, PMC, then what spore tetrad. So according to this, what sporogenous tissue itself consists of what pollen mother cells, that is what PMC, then it will develop as what microspore tetrad. Here option 4 is what the correct, right? So that what I am going to find out, right? Then select the word correct statement from the following with respect to the word transcription they are asking, right? Then the correct statement what we have to find out. So according to that, if you consider here, mainly the DNA dependent RNA polymerase catalyzes the polymerization in only one direction, that is what direction from 5' to 3'. So here this option is what correct. Then the coding sequence or expressed sequence are defined as introns. No, right? These are non-expressed sequences, right? Then intertwining the sequences do appear in the particularly processed RNA. Yes, that can this even cannot see with respect to the word processed RNA. Intervening sequence means what the particularly introns do appear in what processed RNA. Processed RNA will have only what exons, the functional one, right? So that is incorrect. In bacteria, translation can be much more before the what mRNA is fully transcribed. Yes. So that can be what seen with bacteria. Here A and D is what actually the correct statement with respect to the word transcription, and here option 1 is what correct, right? Then next is choose the word incorrect incorrect mismatch matched pair with respect to the condition of what stamen, right? If you consider here the direct one, it is like answer is what Epiphilus P, right? So this is what incorrect mismatch related with respect to the what the particularly what stamens, right? Stamen means what mainly the arrangement of stamen either with respect to the petals or with respect to the what the particularly gynoecium you consider, like that you are going to find out monoadelphous type and the polyadelphous type. So epipetalous, monoadelphous, polyadelphous, these are related with respect to the stamen, but which is not related, epiphilus is not related. So this is what actually the mainly mismatched pair you are going to find out. Then recombination nodule on the homologous chromosome during meiosis are. So meiosis are here what I am finding out, that is nothing but the particularly here the site at which the crossing over occurs. Recombination nodule on homologous chromosome during the meiosis are, that is nothing but the it's a site of the particularly at which the crossing over occurs, right? So that is what the 4 option is correct. Then match the least one with respect to the what least two, right? Here they have given something called as what the different members like phaeophyce, chlorophyce, liverwort and mosses, right? So according to that we have to match the following, and if you consider with respect to the match the following here, that is nothing but what the phaeophyce are related with respect to the mainly here the phaeophyce are related with respect to the mainly the pyriform of what gametes that can be seen with what phaeophyce. Then mosses are related with respect to the what protonema. Then chlorophyce, they are related with respect to the here what the pyrenoids. Then liverwort, that is related with respect to the what gamma cup. According to that, if you consider here option 3 is what correct, right? Sorry, 4 is correct. Then next one, right, that is choose the what incorrect statement, that is related with respect to the what again meiosis here. So related with meiosis, if you consider incorrect statement, meiosis involves 2 sequential cycles of what nuclear and cell division called as what meiosis 1 and meiosis 2, but only a single cycle of what DNA replication takes place. Yes, that is what correct. Then meiosis 1 is initiated after the parental chromosome have replicated to produce what identical sister chromatid at the what S phase. Yes, that even be what correct here, right? Then meiosis involves pairing of homologous chromosome and the recombination between sister chromatid of what homologous chromosome. So this is what the actually wrong here, right? So that cannot get overlap like this. So you can consider, so this statement is what the incorrect regarding the meiosis. Then 4 haploid cells are formed at the what end of meiosis 2. This is what even correct. So here option 3 is what incorrect, right? Then next question, the choose the what incorrect statement, right, related with respect to the what chlorella what they have mentioned, right? So according to that, if consider, that is nothing but what here majorly chlorella is a unicellular algae rich in protein. Yes, it is called as what SCP here. Then chlorella is used as food supplement by a space travelers. Yes, it can be used as what food supplement. Then the product obtained from the what the gracilaria is used to grow the particularly microbes. Yes, that is what even correct. Then the laminar and the sargassum are used in preparation of the particularly what ice creams and what jellies. No, this is what actually incorrect related with laminar and sargassum, right? They are actually galladium and the mainly like what rhodophyce membered algae is what actually used for the preparation of what ice creams and the particularly jellies. Then so some interactions are given in the what table. Mark the particular option with respect to the what correct labeled one. So you have to see that what A, B, right, and according to that I have to find out which one is A, B and C. Name the particularly what interaction based on species A and species B. So based on that, if I consider here what I am going to find out majorly, that is nothing but what if I find out the match if I find out, that is here mainly the first one, why a species is benefited and one is harmed. So according to that, what the particularly it is known as parasitism, right? Then the third one is what commensalism, second one is commensalism, and third one is what amensalism, right? So based on that option 1 is what correct here, right? Then mainly like here if you consider that, choose the what incorrect incorrect matched pair, right? So incorrect matched pair, that what we have to find out here, that is here tracheids, one of the particularly main water transporting element. Yes, this is correct. Then vessel, characteristics features of what angiosperms. Yes, that what we are going to find out. Then xylem fibers, highly thickened walls, what we are going to get it, right? Xylem parenchyma provides what mechanical support. Xylem parenchyma won't produce what? The particularly mechanical support. Mechanical support mainly given by means of whom? Collenchyma or the majorly sclerenchyma. So that is what here mismatched pair is what? The particularly 4, right? Incorrectly matched. Then photorespiration is a wasteful process because there is neither the synthesis of what? Synthesis of phosphoglycerate nor of what? ATP. Then neither the synthesis of phosphoglycerate nor the what? Phosphoglycolate. Neither the synthesis of sugar nor of the particularly ATP. Neither the synthesis of what? Phosphoglycolate nor this particularly what? ATP. So according to that, if you consider neither the synthesis of sugar nor the particularly what? ATP, because phosphoglycolate can be formed, then phosphoglycerate can be formed, phosphoglycerate can be what? Formed, but which cannot be formed here? The particularly sugar or not what? Even the particularly ATP. That what we are going to see, right? So according to that, here the option 3 is what? Incorrect. Then correct, actually identify the what? Mismatched pair. Mismatched pair, what we have to find out. Then according to that, if you consider here, that is mainly game is what? Known to be what? Asexual, but uh, coralloid is related with what? Nitrogen fixation route. Yes. Mycorrhiza, symbiotic association of fungi with what? Root of what? Lower plants. Mycorrhiza is going to be symbiotically associated with majorly gymnosperms or higher plants, right? There what I am going to find out, the particularly this is what the actual mismatched pair, right? Prothallus, that is free living thalloid gametophyte, that is what actually correct. So here option 3 is what? The correct. Then refer the particularly referring to the what? Picture given below, choose the what? Option having correct sequence of event with respect to the what? Meiosis 1. So correct sequence of event with respect to the meiosis 1, diagrammatic based it is, and that is here I am finding out. The first one is what? C, right? Then the second one is what? A, and third one is what? B. So here that is what? Option 3 is correct by seeing the particularly what? A diagram, right? Given below are the what? Two statements, that is what? Ascomycetes are commonly known as sac fungi, right? Sac fungi. And statement 2, in Ascomycetes asexual spores are what? Conidia, produced exogenously on the what? Special mycelium called as what? Conidiophore. And in the light of what? Above statement, choose the what? Most appropriate answer from the what? Option given below. So according to that, if you consider here, that is both the statement 1 and statement 2 are what? Correct, right? Ascomycetes commonly called as what? Sac fungi, and the particularly in Ascomycetes asexual spores are what? Conidia, produced exogenously onto the what? The particularly special mycelium called as conidiophore. So here both statement 1 and 2 are correct, right? Then select the what? Incorrect statement, right? Incorrect statement, what we have to find out. So according to that, if you consider here incorrect type of what? Statement, that is nothing but what? The Bacane foolishing seedling disease of the what? Rice seedling was caused by the particularly fungi pathogen Gibberella fusiculae. The active substances were later what? Identified as auxin, right? It is not identified as auxin, but it is identified as what? Gibberellic acid. So the first statement itself is what? Incorrect here, right? Then auxin controls xylem differentiation and help in cell division, this is correct. Miller et al. Defined, identified and crystallized the cytokinin from what? Active substances, that they are termed as what? Kinetin, this is what? Even correct. Then Cousins confirmed the release of what? Volatile substances from what? Ripened oranges, and that hastens the ripening of what? Stored unripened bananas. Later it was identified as what? Ethylene, the gaseous PGPR. So here the first one itself is what? Incorrect. So answer is what? 1, right? Then G1 S phase, M phase and G2 phase, according to that we have to match the following. And if you consider with respect to the match the following here, that is the particular G1 is related with respect to the what? Cell growth and the particularly organelle duplications that can be what? Seen. Then particularly S phase, that is related with respect to the what here, DNA replication and chromosome duplication. Then G2 is related with respect to the what, cytoplasmic growth. Then M phase is what, alignment of chromosome on what, equatorial plate. So that can be seen. So according to that, here option 2 is correct, right? Then in the particularly C4 plants, Kelvin pathway occurs in C4 plant. Kelvin cycle will occur with respect to mesophyll cells, bundle seed cells, both mesophyll cell and bundle cells, and none of these above. So majorly the Kelvin cycle will takes place with respect to the what, the particularly bundle seed cell. In mesophyll cells, first carbon, primary carbon fixation is going to take place. So here answer is what, the bundle seed cells, right? Then when a host fish species became extinct, its unique assemblage of parasite also meets the particularly same fate. This statement is true about. So this statement, if you consider, that is nothing but it is true about, related with respect to the particularly that is the coexistence, related with respect to the word coexistence. When a species became what, extinct, the plant and the particularly animal species associated collaborated with each other, they are going to be what, even existent, right? So that is what the coextensions itself is what matter of it is, right? Because both of them are what, depend on what, each other. So here option 2 is correct, right? Then given below, majorly here, that is nothing but what, the statements, right? Mainly assertion and reason is given, right? What assertion says, the growth, differentiation and development are very closely related event in the particularly life of a plant. Then reason, development in plant, that is both growth and differentiation, is under the control of what, intrinsic and extrinsic factor, right? According to that, if you consider, both A and R are true, but R is not actually the correct explanation of what, A, right? And they actually defined with respect to the word growth, how actually growth and development. So there what is matter, intrinsic as well as extrinsic. But here assertion what it says, growth, differentiation, development are very closely related event in life of what, the particularly plant, right? So based on that, if you consider, both assertion and reasons are true, but the R is not the correct explanation of what, the particularly assertion, right? So that's all for today. So we have discussed with respect to the mock test, mainly the biology part of it is, and mainly a botany, right? So thank you so much.